Hi, welcome. My name is Bob Singha. I'm a master youth coach, and as you know, I'm interested in innovation in coaching, especially coaching with young people and in schools, coaching youth work professionals and teachers. Today, we're going to be speaking to Martin Richards, who's worked in Sweden for the last 20, maybe 30 years. Martin's a professional coach, was a teacher, and is a professional speaker. So we're going to be speaking to him about lessons that he's learned. So hopefully he's there and he can hear us now. Martin, thanks for sparing the time.
You're welcome. Welcome back.
Great. We finally got this interview together. We've been working together on various different projects. Someone listening to this or watching this might know you from the Global Coach Conference or the Coach Cafe, a kind of serial or prolific kind of innovator in the coaching field. I'd like to kind of describe you as. But if someone's watching this and they don't know you or they're meeting you for the first time, how would you describe yourself?
That's a good question. I'm a parent, teacher, and a coach. Not always in that order.
Hmm.
I write now. I give lectures. Not really lectures. They're more like an interactive event, almost like a workshop. I do that with teachers and students. And otherwise, I coach teachers and company leaders.
Okay, great. So today we're going to be speaking about the project that you've been working with, taking coaching into schools and introducing it into
Right,
education, which I know
right.
from our conversation is a passion that we both share. Can you tell us a little bit about the project, kind of a description about what the outcomes of the project are? What is the project that you're working on at the moment?
Right. The project has reached a stage now where we're actually in schools coaching teachers. Had you asked me 7 years ago, it was just a dream,
Hmm.
a desire to put coaching into the hands of teachers and give them the power and what can I say, the energy that coaching gives people. And right now, we are waiting to restart after the summer break. We're
Hmm.
coming back in August. We're going to be working with 10 schools and an average of 10 teachers in each school. The schools are quite small, so it's going to be between a third and a half of the staff will have coaching in the coming year. So that's where we are right now.
So, so what's the kind of perception of the of coaching in Sweden? How have schools or education authorities responded to the offer of taking coaching into schools?
Well, that's changed over the past 7 years. The initial question was, what's coaching, and
Hmm.
why are you here? What's coaching got to do with us? There was no connection between uh, business and school, or sports and school, apart from perhaps the business lessons or the sports lessons in school. So when I was talking about coaching for teachers, there was a big question mark around that. What's the point? Why are we doing it? And to be honest, I didn't know. I couldn't really answer that question myself. It was an experiment to find out if coaching could offer something to teachers. I had a passion. I believed it had, but I didn't know that it had. Over the past 7 years, that's changed to greater and greater acceptance. Coaching has appeared in other forms, in particular coaching around jobs. And as it comes now into schools, it seems much more natural. Question now isn't why are you here and what are you doing? It's please come in and how can we afford you? So it's changed. Very big change in focus.
Um, Someone listening to that who is either working in schools or thinking about working in schools, or perhaps even a teacher that is interested in bringing coaching into their
Mm.
schools, that's probably a good news. Um, What can you share a story about entering a school that perhaps didn't know about coaching, and how did you describe coaching? What would be kind of some lessons that you've learned about describing coaching to a school that was
Yeah,
new to it?
yeah. Well, my description of coaching would have come from my coactive coach training,
Hmm.
but that wasn't really going into um, into head teachers' ears. They weren't listening to that.
Mm-hmm.
What they were listening to was, what's in it for them? What can they use coaching for? And they saw it as a way of solving a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So some schools, they said, well, we don't need coaching. We haven't got a problem. Okay, even though I could describe coaching as a way of creating solutions, they weren't interested in that. They were only seeing coaching as a problem solution, and they weren't really willing to admit to any problems,
Mm-hmm.
or at least in some of the schools.
Mm-hmm.
Others said, yeah, we've got a teacher here maybe on the verge of quitting teaching because it's
Mm-hmm.
tough, and they don't have time necessarily to go in and help this teacher. And since I was offering a handful of coaching sessions for my benefit to get my experience around coaching and to test whether coaching had something to offer teachers, I was offering coaching for free. So here we have a problem and a free solution. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the way I got into coaching in schools, was to offer them free coaching as a way of doing research. I say free as in no money, but what I asked was that they should write their honest opinion of what the coaching had given them, and I would use that, whatever it was, in my promotion of coaching to other schools.
Okay.
So it's a collection of research and references, case studies, that kind of thing. That's been very powerful. In the second wave of getting into schools that were saying, hey, we don't have a problem, I was able to say, this is what a teacher has done at this school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some valuable lessons there. One is about starting where they are. So if they're just if coaching can be packaged in a way that it will address some of the challenges that the school has, then they're more the school, the senior leadership team, teachers may be more willing to kind of experiment with solutions. And then the second thing is that having a evidence base to be able to present some research or some evidence that it's worked in another school is definitely something to present a school with. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that I want our conversation here to be more than okay, what's going on, but kind of really a series of things that people can take away and implement into their practice. And going through the process.
Are we speaking to the coaches?
Yeah, I mean,
if we're speaking to coaches,
yeah,
then they can be considering what they're willing to do for no money, because schools don't necessarily have a budget for coaching right now. They might have a budget for something else that they can move over to coaching. It might be a question of relabeling it as education, or a kind of problem solving. You've got a problem class. That's something that they have as a real issue in front of them. You can work as a coach with that issue and produce some valuable results. You don't necessarily have to get money for that. If they don't have a budget, then there's nothing for them to pay you with. But they could communicate the fact that you're going to be at their school, you're going to be coaching. The teachers need to know who you are and what you're doing and why. The parents of the young children, parents of the children need to know who you are and why you're there. And that in itself can generate more contacts, more leads, because there's nothing more grateful than a parent who's seen that someone's come into their child's class and turned chaos into creativity in a matter of hours. That's something that they're going to be talking about at the kitchen table and around the coffee table when they get to work, that things are much better for their children. And some of the teachers are also willing to, not everyone's got the money for it, but they're willing to at least spread the word around coaching to other schools.
How much?
If you can set up a win-win situation.
Yeah. I mean, win-win situation is probably one of my favorite phrases. People that know me would know that it's about the win-win. But how much was the fact that you was a teacher? How much did that lend to the credibility? And how did you use your experiences as a teacher to kind of work with teachers in schools?
Yeah. It's difficult for me to know what effect it had, because I have no way of comparing being a teacher and not being a teacher. But it was nothing I said, I'm a teacher and therefore I can help you with your lessons. But at some point, just because of who I am and the way I work with a group of teenagers, I could have been a youth worker, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The teachers notice that you are, or I am, very comfortable walking into the chaotic classroom and capturing students' attention. They would say, "Oh, you're not new to this," or "You must be a teacher," or something like that.
Mm.
How it would have been if I had no teaching skill at all, I don't know. I think I would have just used all of my coaching skills. And the biggest one is curiosity and being open-minded about the young men and women who are in the room that you're working with. Even if you're working with a teacher, again, as a coach, you're being non-judgmental. You're using your curiosity and you're using your skill of being in the unknown without being panicked to carry you through to the next thing and looking for what wants to happen. That's much more important than being a teacher. However, some teachers have said that it's nice to be able to say to me, "Oh, you know where I'm coming from with this. You recognize the situation. You've been here before." So that makes them slightly more comfortable. But it's nothing the knowledge of an experience of being a teacher is something that I've had to put to one side when I'm working as a coach. As it is with anything else, when you're working as a coach, your own experience actually can get in the way, and you need to put it to one side. So it's more challenging for me to work as a coach for teachers than it is for a coach with someone who's running a company, because I've never run a company, 15 or 20 employees. I don't know. There are lots of similarities between running a company and running a classroom, but it's much cleaner when I'm coaching business leaders.
I suppose what I was hinting at was I potentially get calls on a weekly basis of someone that's gone to a seminar, feels very passionate about coaching or personal development, and one of the first places they want to take it is to schools. So they have this huge enthusiasm. How do we get into schools? How do we get this message? How do we get this technology to schools? But they forget, or they kind of ignore the fundamentals of rapport, which is about building credibility. So I think there's some subtle things, because we've spoken about it offline, where teachers have a rapport with you that you can know the uniqueness, the peculiarities of a school context, of timing, for example, of making it easy to fit into a curriculum, using the right jargon and terminology. But at the basis, what is behind there is, I think, what you said, and I want someone who's listening to this to kind of really hear that, which is the basis of curiosity, which is not we have the solution as coaches and you are dummies, but this kind of curiosity about where can we take this, curiosity and respect, which is, I think,
Yes.
The grounding of your practice. And whenever I've spoken to you, there's a sense of respect and there's a sense of curiosity, which I think is very good advice if you're going to be going to work in a school, you're going to be working with young people, you're going to be working with youth work professionals, where there's a respect. And I want people to hear that loud and clear, that when you're going into a school, have that sense of curiosity about how can this work, because the schools are going to be different. Can you talk a little bit about how the program is different in different schools? What kind of experiences have you had, and how have you managed to adapt what your original program has over the 7 years?
The program I'm on now, I'm only working with teachers, so I don't interact with the students at all, which is a challenge. The way that is set up is that there are 8 sessions, of which 3 are coaching, and I'm sorry, I can't count. 5 are coaching and 3 are observation. The setup is you get to know your teacher, you get to know how you're going to play this together. There's a relationship building so that you become a team. And exactly as you say, if I go in with, I know better than you, I'm dead. Because they know that I don't know, because I was never in their classroom. So it has to be for me, finding out what it is they want me to help them with or support them in changing. And sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they just want to change everything and nothing, or everything in between. So that the first session is finding out what it is that's going to be on our shared agenda and the roles that we have. And I usually write an agreement. You will do this and I will do that. And what I do is to say, I never give advice, which for
Right.
some teachers is a disappointment because they'd love me to give advice, if only to tell me that I'm wrong. But I never give advice. Dangerously close on occasions, and one teacher did say, with a great grin on her face, "Ha ha, I made you give me some advice." And oh, no, damn it, I did, didn't I? But, I confess. The setup is to get a relationship where you're equals. I can be extra. And one of the questions I ask is, what value am I to you in your classroom? Notice your classroom. And they can say, but you can see behind me. You can see what the students do behind my back. You can see who I'm missing. Mostly teachers have focused on where they need to put their energy is often on things that could go horribly wrong. So they focus on that. And they miss things. And they miss some things that do go horribly wrong. So having an extra person in the room who's not going to interact with the students, not a teacher, an observer of the teacher instead, that becomes the basis of which the first observation is frameworked around something that I'm being asked to look at. For example, do I include all the students? Or what happens when? Or what do I say that sets them off? That's another one. Then after that, the coaching that comes in between is reflection on what you've learned, the teacher, and planning for the next step. And they have, as I said, 3 observations and 5 coachings. The last coaching is more of a summary around what they can do to go even further. How they are different. Every teacher is unique. Every situation is unique. I've been at different schools and I've worked with different teachers. So there are no two things the same, except that they all get a lot better for having someone in the room who doesn't judge them, who can support them in a coach-like way. So they all love it. I mean, the first time it's like, okay, let's find out what this is. And by the time they've had their second or third observation, they love it then. I won't say they're addicted, but they want more. Quite a lot more.
There's a valuable point there, which is when you're introducing something that's new and innovative, there's a natural tendency that some people will be cynical about this, especially when there's massive change to the system of education, lots of new initiatives being introduced, some good, some not so good. So this kind of general cynicism, but there's also an excitement and curiosity about you're designing something together.
Yeah.
And I've seen new coaches or coaches that really desperate and passionate to get into school kind of get frustrated at the early stages. So it's good to hear that that there's a pattern that's being reflected in what you've done and what I've done and other people's done, which is almost an expectancy that you're working this out together. That there's going to be some cynicism, there's going to be some exploring. Sometimes that comes out in the agreement. I remember when I used to phone schools and talk about coaching, and even after an hour conversation, they used to say, "We'll put you through to the sports department because that's the only concept they have
That's
of
my
coaching."
Yeah.
Or they say, "Oh yeah, we booked a coach last week, but we needed a double decker instead of the 52 seater," and I was like, so the only concept that they had was the coach that took the kids to swimming, and so I remember myself going, feeling quite frustrated that we're still on the terms of not knowing anything about coaching, rather than which coach and which program is going to be beneficial.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's something you learn through experience. And a classic mistake that someone can make is to kind of expect people to sign up to a 2-year coaching program without any sort of knowledge of it, without any experience of it. So perhaps what we're saying is to kind of maybe build in a bit of let's see how this goes. So let's see if this works for you. Genuine uh, consultancy or a conversation. Um, can you speak about kind of the logistics of how the
Yeah,
how the projects were set up? You know, who's
yeah.
funding this? Who's the backers? Can you tell us a little bit about?
Well, right now, this is run by the national government.
Right.
So schools are also run by local government. So we have both levels. And the national government has said that certain schools need more support than they have been getting. They've selected the schools based on those who are performing least well
Right.
and put in coaches. They put in other things too. They've put in like group coaching. They've put in training in especially teaching of Swedish, in this case, second language, because the students don't all have Swedish. They're not able to communicate with each other in a common language. So that's where the money's coming from right now. And what you were describing around the cynicism sounds like it was here 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was more people, the majority of people perhaps were not aware of what coaching was, or they thought it was something completely different, double-decker or something, or that it applied to somebody else like within business or within sports. So to bridge that, I gave a lot of talks to teachers about what is coaching. And I used some of the core coaching skills that the International Coach Federation have described, and described those to the teachers who said, well, that's what we do every day.
Mm-hmm.
The active listening, we do that every day. Powerful questions, we ask questions every day. Great. Nothing unusual there, except we discovered that what they were doing was very little coaching. They do it, but they don't do it very often, and they don't do it to any great depth. So in my presentation, there was a lot of recognition. Yeah, we do that. So when I gave them the opportunity of being coached by doing a demonstration coaching, that's when they discovered how deep coaching will go.
Mm-hmm.
And how quickly you can produce fantastic results. I had one teacher come up and she was completely stuck, had been stuck on a particular thing for a couple of years, and it was getting worse. It was obviously something that she was passionate about and wanted to clear. And just that drive and the opportunity of coming up in front of her peers and saying, this is what I want to change. I gave her the opportunity of stating what it was she wanted and going there. And suddenly she was there. I mean, you're a coach, you know what I mean.
Mm.
But it meant the whole audience saw this teacher make a breakthrough in minutes without me giving any advice whatsoever. And there was a kind of, that's interesting. Where can I learn more? So from those teachers, the interest in getting onto the same page that I was on as a coach was first awoken. Maybe that's something to think about. As you're going in as a newly developed coach, you're well into the book, and they're not even on, the people you're working with aren't even on page one. Maybe for them, you need to get back to page one and say, okay, coaching is, and to hold your passion as your driver, but not theirs. They're not there. They aren't on that page.
I think,
and build some bridges around, let us understand what it is we're doing here, and let them find the reason. For some of them, it'll be for their own personal development. For others, it'll be for them to guide others. And it could be within their private relationships as well. So it doesn't have to be focusing on education just because they're a teacher. It's something else to bear in mind.
It's great experience that you shared, which is about not being on the same page or being on the same place in the arc of coaching. That someone's gone through coaching, they've witnessed that kind of magical experience, that kind of great experience, that kind of breakthrough or growth, and you know that's what I was kind of describing, this kind of frustration, or we need to get there, this is going to be an amazing experience, this is a great thing to have, but kind of reattaching yourself to that kind of place when it was new for you.
Yes, it's new for them.
Yeah, and then getting to that place of saying, okay, what is this like, and finding comparisons, finding connections. Um, and a lovely point that you made, which is coaching sounds a certain way when you speak about it, but you need to do it, you need to experience it, you need to have it, you need to kind of feel your way through it. Powerful listening sounds great, but it's more than powerful listening. Incisive questions, directed questions, powerful questions, again, sounds really great, but it's more than that, and it's the synergy between that, and teachers will bring their own flavor to that. And whenever I've worked with teachers and schools and education authorities, and I worked a little bit of a time with the government in their education department. And what happened was I had a concept, and I almost forced myself that I'm not bringing something like a medicine that someone needs to take, but I'm bringing a set of experience so we can create something new from what they've
Yeah,
got. So
yeah,
the essence of coaching, which is I'm going to start a coaching conversation, which is, you know, teachers are so great about talking about how they can use this, and they will come up with new ideas. And I think people know that that's hard when you've got a certain project that you've got to coach a certain amount of teachers by a certain amount of things. You've got to have some outcomes, but in coaching there needs to be some flexibility, and in designing we need to have some flexibility. Um, what if you had to design it again? What would you have done differently?
well, we are designing it again, and what we're doing differently is we're bringing the teachers in at the beginning.
Mhm.
Instead of the coaches saying, this is what's going to happen,
Mhm.
we're getting the teachers to say, I've just had this happen to me. So the
Mm.
teachers are talking to their colleagues. So the
Great.
first time around, there's no one in the group, in the teacher group, who's experienced coaching firsthand. So it becomes our job to be ambassadors for ourselves.
Mm.
But it's way more powerful to say, John, could you come up and tell about, what we did or what you did with your coach even better? And John will stand in and his way connect with his colleagues and say, well, you know me, um, class so and so or these students, yeah. Well, it's a lot better now because, and
Mm.
they go, yeah, 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 we want that too. But how did you do it? Was it some kind of magic pill or what?
Yep.
No. And then they talk about how they, together with their coach, design a relationship called coaching that has certain activities around coach listening, coach asking questions, and the teacher coming up with, I want to do this differently. This is what I want to do. They get a third view of themselves, and out of that comes a strategy for how they will run the next and the next and the next lessons. And by saying that to their colleagues is way more convincing than having us sell in something that we've been paid for or going to be paid.
Mm.
So that that's one of the things that's going to be different this time around. We are using coaches to facilitate the conversation between teachers who've been coached and the teachers who can be coached if they want to.
Mhm. Mhm. So, if someone's watching this and they want to find out more about coaching with teachers, coaching in schools, I know that you're a great member of our tribe, our coaching tribe, about sharing your experiences. How can someone find out more about this? I know that you have a website. What is that website?
I do indeed, yes. I prepared this earlier today.
Fantastic. Well done.
martinrichards.se. Yep.
Okay. So
There
what will
you go.
people find on that website?
They will find some ideas for getting coaching into their school. But most importantly, they'll find a contact so they can work with me directly. As you say, I love supporting coaches in getting coaching into any school.
Hmm.
The world's a big place.
Yep.
I'm getting calls now from the States, from Portugal, from India,
Great.
to give support to what's going on there. So, I mean, the sky's the limit. It's a pretty untouched market.
Hmm.
Thank goodness the market's been skeptical because it's driven away people who are only in it for the money. There are some people in coaching just for the money, but the
Yes.
most passionate of us will have to put in a few years of hard work and give lectures and talks and workshops to students and teachers and let the message spread by itself.
Hmm.
And I'm willing and very happy to support any coach who wants to do that.
That's fantastic, and I can back that up. If you're listening and watching this, that if you send an email to Martin, and if he can help, he will respond to you, and you'll be able to find a wealth of resources. About descriptions about what coaching is, some coaching exercises. I know that you're writing a book.
I
Do
am
you want to
indeed,
speak?
yes. Ooh,
Um,
try and stop me. The book has been writing itself for maybe 4 months now. The kickoff for the book was a teacher who said, I'm interested in coaching, but I don't want to be a coach.
mhm.
What does it mean to not be a coach if you're coaching? Are we back to sports? No, it wasn't that. This is an ordinary teacher, not in business, not in sports at all, but they wanted a coaching approach. So what do you need? What's the minimum you need? Curiosity and some powerful questions. And of course, keeping your own agenda to one side. And that was the origin of the book. It now has 6 chapters, 6 steps you can take as to increase your coaching. I was going to say skill. It is a skill, but it's more of a meta skill,
Mhm.
such as curiosity that we've mentioned several times today, and working with your own fear as well,
Mhm.
being prepared to make mistakes, that kind of thing.
When's that book going to be
Yeah.
available?
Oh, it's going to be available as a book this autumn. There, I said it.
This autumn. So, if we was in a coaching thing, I say you're just sectioning it by seasons, not the month. But
Well,
as soon as you know that date, it will be available on that website, and I'll also announce it. And once I get a copy of it, endorse it, and make sure that people get hold of that. So look out for that book. It's going to be Martin Richards. Um, is sharing his experience and also introducing people to a coaching approach. Not necessarily for people that
exactly.
want to shift professions. Again, that might be a thing where people come in and say, "Hey, coaching is better than teaching. Coaching is better than mentoring." And people that have been in members of this tribe for a good section of time know that that's not true, and that's not the best way of building rapport. So I look forward to having that book on my shelf behind me, and also using that and giving that to teachers, and sharing that with people in education. Um, what excites you about the future? And we've talked about things that you've been involved in the past, connecting coaches across the world, looking at education, looking at coaching. Mm,
Yeah.
you know, how come you're doing this? I mean, you seem like a good-looking, educated guy. Why are you messing around with coaching and education and teachers?
Well, I'm coaching, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good question. The connection between teaching and coaching for me was it's a way for me to contribute to the education system in a better way than I can when I'm a teacher. When I'm a teacher, I'm locked into a system that tells me what to do.
Mhm.
And I found that too limiting. So I had to leave the education system and was very torn up by that.
Mhm.
But I've been able to come back to it and contribute by supporting teachers. So
Mhm.
I'm now, one of the joys of being a teacher is you can work with 30 in a class, maybe 100 students. You're affecting 100 people's lives. Hey, I can do that. I can step back and work with maybe 10, 20 teachers and work by extension with several thousand
Mhm.
students. That I find exciting. But most of it really comes down to when I was a teacher, I was a coach, but I didn't know it. The
Mhm.
way I worked, whether it was I was teaching mathematics or I was teaching English, the way I worked easily fits into coaching. But now I've got names for it. Now I've got
Mhm.
names for the tools that I was intuitively using. And what do I think the future will bring?
What excites you about the
Well,
future?
the fact that it's going so quickly. I mean, oh yeah, 7 years, it seems a long time, especially when you're starting on day one. Oh, do I
Mm-hmm.
have to do all of this? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my daughter's 25. When did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Pow! So I've got a different time perspective now. I know that things grow at their pace, not mine. And what I can do right here and right now is what I can do. Whether that's coach an individual, work with a team, or maybe it's just writing a book. Whatever it is, I'll do it. And when I look back, I think, God, that was a clever move. That was smart. Wow, Global Coach Conference. Who'd have thought of that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you connect 1,600 coaches around the world by headset for conversations about coaching?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it's something that grabbed hold of me, and I'm sure it's going to come back. I do have, on a monthly basis, Skype calls. This is the Coach Cafe that you mentioned. It's now got a coaching approach for educators. Cafe, coaching approach for
Fantastic.
It's fantastic. We just co-opted the website to focus on teachers. So it's coaches talking about how do I get coaching into my school in my country?
Mm-hmm.
And you bring teachers along, and we
Mm-hmm.
can coach them. We can talk about coaching, whatever they need. And it's all done for free. It's all done for love and experience and references and case studies and you name it.
How can someone access that? Will they be able to go to coachcafe.com?
Yeah, they can go to Coach. There isn't a .com. It's a Weebly site, so it's coachcafe.weebly.com. If they can't find that, they can come to me at my website, because that's why I send people martinrichards.se.
Yep.
It's in
Great.
It's in English, not in Swedish.
Great.
And I'll redirect them to the monthly calls. The next one's in August,
Yep. Fantastic.
20-something of August. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, I wanted to publicly acknowledge that I talk a lot about tribe and people that are contributing to the tribe and the concept of mastery. When I introduce myself, I say I'm a master youth coach. People say I'm kind of big-headed, but what it means is that we're constantly learning and we're constantly passionate and dedicated to not only learning but contributing our experience and our learning to other members so that we can kind of grow this and it can exist past our individual projects, our individual lives. And I definitely see you as someone who is a leading force in that. So whenever we connect, we be able to share. You've been open and about sharing it. You've been open today and sparing the time to kind of share your experience. You don't need to. Some people don't. They kind of see that as kind of corporate intelligence. But we both know that we won't be able to grow our field if we don't have the kind of the coaching principles or the coaching approach to our own field, to
Exactly.
our own tribe. So, a coaching cafe is another example of using technology in a way that we can share, we can explore, we can understand, we can show respect to people that we're working with, rather than it being this kind of corporate kind of we're going to sell something to you, we're going to do this overt marketing piece, but we're going to set up a conversation, and that's what we've had today. So I hope if you're listening and watching this that you've valued this conversation. If there is any more questions, you can come directly to me on this website or find me on Google Bob Singer or bobsinger.com. Martin shared his things. Go to him directly. If there's any questions, and probably that's our hope that we've inspired some more questions. But if there's any questions, feel free to kind of send them to either Martin or myself, and we'll do our best to kind of guide you to someone or the resources that are available. Um, Martin, I just wanted to say thank you for sparing the time. You are in Sweden. We have made this work.
We made it
we,
work.
we have made this work. We have funny headsets on, but hopefully people could hear and see us and kind of gauge that we're both passionate about working with teachers, working in schools, working for and with young people. And we've dedicated some things and we've got some experiences that we can share. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
I've enjoyed it enormously. And you were pointing at connecting globally. And we've mentioned before about how people are at different stages of development. One of the interesting things is if you go to another country, they may well be ahead of where you are,
Yep.
or that you might find a country to match where you are, and you can use your headset to connect with them. in a generous, sharing kind of atmosphere. And then what happens from that is, of course, people get curious about things that you may or may not have to tell them. And that's a separate issue. That's a wallet issue.
Hmm.
Coaching in schools, coaching in education is all about the heart.
Great. I think that's a great point to kind of conclude that coaching is from the heart, and that's where some of the success has come from. Most of the success has come from a sense of curiosity, a sense of respect, and to stimulate a conversation with the people that you want to be working with and for. Thank you, Martin Richards, for joining me today, having this conversation. I'm sure it'll be the first of many, and thank you very much for watching this, whoever you are, wherever you are. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Take care.